Hello, warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. This is Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. It is estimated that 36% of the very poor globally escaped extreme poverty, and this is achieved through the social safety nets by way of cash in kind transfers, social pensions, public works, and school feeding programs targeted at the poor and vulnerable households. For Nigeria, the National Social Investment Programs, which was established in 2016, now under the purview of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, has been described as the most laudable social protection and poverty eradication program put in place by any government to address economic imbalances and alleviate poverty. Now, the NSIP, that's the National Social Investment Programs, has four main clusters. That is the N-Power, the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, the Conditional Cash Transfer, and the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, GEEP. Each of the programs designed to address specific socioeconomic challenges and improve the livelihoods of the poor and vulnerable households. But you ask, what are the gains in the past 2.5 years, and what impact has been made in the lives of Nigerians, and what is in place for sustainability beyond this present administration? Our focus on Platform today is assessing the gains of the National Social Investment Programs of the federal government. And our guest is a national coordinator of the NSIP, Dr. Umar Bindir. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Bindir.
Thank you very much.
All right, before I introduce our panelists, let's take you through the profile of Dr. Bindir. You can call him an engineer, and he has had his basic education in Yola and graduated from the University of Maiduguri with a first-class honors degree in agriculture. He has a master's and doctorate degrees from the prestigious Cranfield Institute of Technology, CIT, now Cranfield University in the United Kingdom, professionalized as an agricultural machinery design and development engineer in 1987 and 1991. Engineer Bindir has numerous professional qualifications, including Chartered Engineer, Nigeria Fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Engineering, Fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Agricultural Engineers, Fellow of the Solar Energy Society of Nigeria, and has earned several national and international awards, including the National Productivity Order of Merit in Nigeria. He has served in the academia and industry and was a director for many years in the mainstream Nigeria Federal Civil Service. He was the immediate past Director General, CEO of the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, that is NOTAP. Dr. Bindir was the immediate past Secretary to the government of Adamawa State. He is an accomplished engineer and presently the National Coordinator of the NSIP. Thank you once again for joining us, Dr. Bindir.
Thank you very much.
All right, and we have a panelist. She's a humanitarian correspondent from the Abuja Inquirer newspaper, Laraba Mure. Laraba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Dr. Bindir, we're looking at assessing the gains of the National Social Investment Programs. This is one initiative that started back then in 2016 and now under the purview of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. And so far, a lot has been said about the NSIP. Sometimes we get to see beneficiaries attest to the impact the NSIP is making in their lives. But we want to hear from you, not because you're the national coordinator of the NSIP, but from your assessment. What would you say about the NSIP?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. And this is a very critical question for all Nigerians. You see, for the first time in the history of our country, that a program targeting the poor and vulnerable has been mainstreamed in the federal system of our civil service under a ministry that has been designed to be literally the Ministry of Poverty Alleviation or Poverty Eradication. This is the first time that we have such a structure. And if there is any index of sustainability, this is the first one. And therefore, the success is that from 2019 to now, our fantastic good lady, Madam Humanitarian, has succeeded to take a new ministry, brand new ministry, with 8 or 9 parastatals, 8 to 9 departments, forge everything in less than 3 years, and it is now a fully functional ministry. And I think Nigerians should understand that this is not easy, and things can be achieved, and she has achieved that. This is the first merit. The second is that the NSIP, as the program that is targeted to the poor and vulnerable, has a very well structured implementation the strategy. And we were lucky that at the beginning in 2016, it was in the office of the Vice President. And anybody in Nigeria knows that when you see the Vice President, he mimics young people, he mimics middle-aged people. He's a professional. And his swagger, even the way he walks, has branded the program to the level that the whole world has actually understood the NSIP. By moving it to the ministry and strengthening it with a lot of creative and innovative things, now the NSIP is a brand. Not just in Nigeria, not just in West Africa, but it's an African brand. And all the international development partners, the World Food Programme, the UN system, all of them are actually coming and we're working together. Again, this is an achievement. Nigerians don't look at it like that. But more interestingly, what Nigerians would love to know is that how has it impacted on Nigerians, the boys and girls, the old people? You see, as you said, there are 4 clusters. And the core ingredient of the whole NSIP is give people skills and try as much as possible to ensure that they take their skills to do something that is gainfully paying them, and then gradually life will be normal. And I have worked in many countries and in many ministries. I have never seen a country where you have people have skills and they translate that skill into a job, and they have 5 to 8 hours to work, and they get a pay. They go back at night, have dinner, take their shower, and then they will say, well, now that I'm full, let's go and kill people. No, it doesn't happen like that. Once you have that, you are settled. It means you are looking forward to. So what the NSIP has done, first in 2016, when we opened the NPower portal, first time in 2016, we had 800,000 young Nigerians who demonstrated that Nigeria has actually arrived in IT. No forms, no distribution, nothing to say you must know somebody. Just go to the internet, go to the NSIP portal, the NPower portal, key in your details, and then we captured 800,000. This is not just the number, but it has demonstrated that actually Nigerian has arrived, because IT has penetrated to the extent that Nigerians are underestimating it. Out of this 800,000, we mined 200,000. That was our batch A. In 2017, we opened the portal again. It shot up. We got 2.5 to 3 million registrants on the portal. From that, we mined 300,000. That's our batch B. In 2020, when we opened the portal for NPower, we had a total of 6 to 6.5 million registrants. Then the president looked and said, wow, this thing is getting more and more. Expand this program from that 200 plus 300, 500 to 1 million beneficiaries. And as we speak, the 1 million beneficiaries are onboarded on NPower, and the vigor in terms of what they do out there in the field is happening.
That's for batch C.
That's the
right?
batch C, yeah.
But batch C, we're seeing only stream 1.
Stream 1, 2, yes. Now we have concluded the onboarding.
Stream 2 is
490,000, yes,
okay.
Plus that 510. So similarly, when you go to the second leg, which is the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, from 2016 to now, we have...
Why don't we break it down one after the other? Let's focus on NPower for now, then we go over to the rest. I know Laraba wants to ask a question regarding that. There's been a lot of controversy around the NPower scheme. You agree with me, Dr. Binder? A lot of people who have registered have had complaints about payments, or especially the batch A and B that exited the first program, were complaining about the exit program and all of that. And I know recently the exit program, the CBN program for the exited batches A and B, kicked off. But what can you tell us for this batch C now, and how have those irregularities been addressed?
Well, you see, the beauty about NPower is that all payments are digital. There's no cash. So everybody must have their names, their details, their account numbers, their BVN. So if there is any error, or you've changed your account, or the account is dormant, certainly you will have challenges. But in most cases, if we have payment challenges, there are 2. You see, the ministry itself does not pay by itself. We use a structure of payment, the GIFMIS, in the Ministry of Finance through the Accountant General's office. So it is when we prepare the names, all these details, we just lump the whole thing onto the GIFMIS platform, and the GIFMIS pays everybody electronically. Sometimes the GIFMIS has challenges, right?
Okay.
But that's not the ministry. The GIFMIS, you know, if your name is Ruth Agele and you have your account number, and now you came to fill your form as Agele Ruth. Yes, it's the same person, but in banking terms, this is not acceptable. So we start now, the list will come back to us. We will now contact the beneficiary. We will update. So these delays do happen, I must accept. Secondly, the N-Power has been structured in such a way that there are three arms, sub N-Power. N-Teach, the graduates teach in primary schools. N-Health, they work in health facilities. And the Agro, they work in agriculture facilities. You must attend these activities before you are penciled to be paid. Some think actually because you are already listed, you will just get your pay. Okay. Now, as we monitor and we evaluate and we realize that you are not going to that primary school in rural areas, you are not providing the service, of course we are going to stall your payment. This is part of just management, as usual, for transparency and accountability. Again, there are some people who face this. So, but in the batch C, we are using the experience of the batch A and B to now ensure that when we inform the beneficiaries, and we have a very functional call center, they are calling constantly to say, oh, I've not gotten my pay. Why? And the call center, we have like 90 workers in a call center fully kitted.
Where are they located?
They're located in Maitama here, you know, and they're national. They can call from anywhere. They have generic numbers and so on. So they are sorting these payment issues, posting issues. There are sometimes people who are posted, and then a lady who is pregnant will say, no, I cannot go to that place, it's too far. So we have to rejig the whole thing, because even the posting is all digital. You know, the computer knows these are the posting places, knows that these are the people to be posted, and when you merge it, you are just posted based on proximity of your local government. So all these the call center will sort out. So we've learned a lot, and the challenges are getting narrower and narrower. Now when we pay, we get a success rate of probably around 98%. People have gotten their pay. But certainly, you know, the third and most important challenge is that because payment is recurrent, and these recurrent are released monthly from the Federation coffers. Sometimes if you have delayed in release, of course you are going to have a delay in payment. So, but all these things, you know, is a gradual improvement process, and we're learning from our past, and we're trying to make sure that we minimize all these primitive errors and do well.
Okay, still on N-Power, sir.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, how effective is the monitoring? Because we hear Nigerians always complaining payments are not coming in frequently, but are they aware that these are the penalties of their actions? Because from your explanation now, if they go to the centers and monitor them and they are not there, this is what usually stalls their payments. Now, how stiff are those penalties besides the payments, and then how effective is the monitoring?
The penalties are not as stiff as they should be, because you're trying to address issues of poverty, employ the unemployed, and therefore we just try to make sure that you are a young Nigerian, you must learn how to behave well, you must learn, we call it as survival or social skills, you know, that you must know that you must go early, you must participate as a team, you don't quarrel too much. It's a school with children, you must behave. All these, we do the survival skills as continuous training on the program. But as you said, what are we doing to make sure that these things the young people know? You see, the structure of the NSIP is that the president approved that every state must have a focal person. And that focal person is not a federal civil servant. The president approved that the governor, whether you are ABGA, whether you are APC, whether you are PDP, appoint your focal person. Those are the implementers at this stage. So I am happy to report to Nigerians that as we speak, out of our 36 states and FCT, we have 37 locally sourced, locally empowered focal persons. And there's a reason for this. The states must know that fighting poverty is a coordinated system. You are doing yours, we're doing mine, but when we bring it, the focal person in most states, they are also commissioners for poverty alleviation or social development or whatever. So they sit in the council, they are cabinet ranking, and they report on this. The numbers, they're all the people who are on power, the numbers are introduced. Nobody says, oh, the president of the Senate, bring 200. The speaker, no. Everybody goes to the portal and enters. So it's an individual who puts. So if you don't put your data very well, you are the first problem for yourself. So by the time we trim everything, the distribution, because it's money, the distribution, you cannot accommodate all the 6.5 million. 6.5 million, I tell you, if you take 1 million graduates and you put them on N-Power, on a 30,000 stipend, do you know the bill per month is a 30 billion naira stipend amount every month? In 10 months, it's 300 billion. Sure. Some people will think, oh, the NSIP, we've given you 360 billion, you're wasting money. That just N-Power, 1 million graduates out of so many registered, can swallow the whole thing. But again, the skills and the techniques of management is what we employ or deploy in this to make sure that it's functional. And
just yesterday, the Federal Executive Council approved for 10.2 billion naira for the N-Build, I hear. What impact will this have for these beneficiaries? Because they are segmented, right?
Yes.
From what you said.
The N-Power is made up of two streams. The graduate stream, then you have N-Teach, N-Agro, and N-Health. Then the non-graduate, but still they have certificate. They've not gone to university or Polytechnic college. That one, they have the N-Build, they have the N-Knowledge, and N-Creative, and so on and so forth. So the N-Build is the non-graduate component of N-Power. And the scheme there is that when we mop up these young people, we first of all train them in fantastic trades. I'm sure you hear when we want to lay tiles and they should be very nice, we have to get Ghanaians. We think this is depressing, this is primitive, this cannot be tolerated. Therefore, we have taken the masonry and all this building thing as one of the N-Build. Plumbing, all the water.
Okay.
Then automobile, now all cars have got brain box and electronic, is also there. So we are partnering with, this is another creation of the president. Instead of getting consultants, and you may end up having a Ghanaian consultant doing work in Nigeria, we now went back to the institutions that have been established by government. For example, the Automotive Council is an institution with its own training facilities established to deliver the world's best skills into mechanics and so on and so forth. And they're all over the place in Nigeria. We partnered with them to be able to train these young people in automobile. Their certificate is actually accredited worldwide.
Okay.
The same thing, the N-Build is Cobon. It's another council under the Ministry of Works, to do with building and so on and so forth. So what you saw the Mr. President approved yesterday is the charges and the allowances for these 50,000 young people nationwide who will now receive training in plumbing, training in automobile, training in all this masonry stuff. For 3 months, intensive training in-house. They are accommodated, they are fed, they are given materials, and then they get apprenticeship attachment for 6 months. When they finish all this, they then get given a kit. So if you're an automobile repairer, you get your multimeter, your spanners, and so on and so forth. If you are somebody who does the masonry, you get your trowel and all the bits and pieces you require. So that is the package for 50,000 that you had the approval yesterday.
A lot of beneficiaries of the N-Power, let's take it back to batches A and B, were worried about their exit program, which is why the Exit CBN Agribusiness Investment Scheme came on board. What is the benefits of having been, being a part of the Exit program for these beneficiaries?
You see, initially, the idea is that when you take a graduate from an unemployed position, and you're paying him 30,000, and you've given him a bit of life skills of how to behave, and then you attach him to a primary school. The theoretical, thinking that we thought was that this graduate will say, "Thank you, God, I now have something to do, and I'll report in the morning." So he will go there talking to teachers. He may start a farming union in the children, and then he will start a small farm in the, to do things that will change their lives. But certainly, that kind of success is very, very low. So. And we even thought that some of the graduates will be saving 10,000 naira. I mean, you are getting nothing, and now you're getting 30,000 naira. So we thought some of them will say, after this 1 year, I will be unemployed again. Let me save 10,000 naira, and then by the time I finish this, I probably will have like 60 or 70 or whatever thousand, and then I can start baking small bread or whatever. We thought that was going to happen too. But instead of all that, we also arranged the exit. The exit is just like you said. We spoke to the CBN. They have various credit line packages under their development finance department. One of them is this Axmize, where there's a lot of money that you give young people, 3 million or 2 million or 1 million, so that let them go and start their ginger farm, their tomato farm, and so on and so forth. So that the Central Bank of Nigeria partnered with us. We had nearly 22 or 25 consultants who are accredited by the CBN, and now we opened another portal for the exited N-Power to register. Out of the 500,000, I'm happy to report nearly 480,000 registered, and as we speak, they just concluded that training. The training is about how do you establish your business, how do you write your business plan, how do you do your feasibility study, how do you speak to not even the central bank, how do you go to Access Bank and speak to the credit officer, how do you go to Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry. So all that intensive training was done to them, and we hope that some will benefit from the CBN, but many will benefit from other opportunities that Nigeria has put on the table.
Laraba?
Okay, it's still on the N-Power. Now they now have an exit program. When they exit and they're going to get loans, if they get those loans, are you still going to be there to help? Like, is there going to be a refresher course for them as they have assessed the loans? Would they still come back to CBN like continuously to say, okay, we have done this is where, if they have any challenge while they take that? Because refunding those loans is also another issue. So will they still have the relationship with CBN?
Oh yes, we have very intensive structured program in such a way that first, they will be closely monitored.
That's what I wanted to ask, the monitoring.
They're very close. So we have 3 levels of monitoring. First is there are some exited N-Power who have been mopped up as what we call as independent monitors. There are 5,000 of them nationwide. And they've been trained. They've been even given tablets. Special software has been actually designed. So if they meet you where you are, and they ask, what's your name? You say, Ruth, and then they type it. When they say send, it can be sent offline, and anywhere you go, when there's line connection, it will just come to Abuja here. In fact, if anybody lies that you are in Kogi, and then they report that you are in Lokoja, the device will tell, and we will know from here. So those independent monitors who are trained to actually go directly in their local environment, monitoring not just the N-Power, all our programs.
Because I know why Laraba asked that question. You can't give someone 3 million naira alone and you're not monitoring how the funds has been, executed.
Yes. Well, even the giving is not 3 million just handed over.
Okay.
It is released based on needs. So let me give you a typical example. You want to farm sweet corn. Sweet corn is nice. People like sweet corn. So you have your 1 acre. The loan delivery system from Central Bank will visit you first to know that you have a farm, because that loan is not to go and buy a farm. If you don't have a farm, then certainly the failure rate will go. So you say, no, that is my farm. And then they digitize your farm.
So based on what they have gathered in the past 1 year.
Yes. So when you need to plant it, you will get a little bit of money released for your seed. When you need fertilizer, a little bit of money is released for your fertilizer. You need people to remove weeds, you get a little bit of money. So the 3 million is not like, hey, take a Ghana must go and go home. No. It is released on base, plus a lot of extension, a lot of support from all the ADPs. We're working very closely with the Institute of Agricultural Research, with the ADPs in the states, to make sure that we follow these young people, help them to succeed. Anybody who doesn't succeed cannot pay your loan. And therefore it's of our own interest to make sure that they succeed. So there's training, there's retraining, there's monitoring and evaluation, there's extension, heaps of it, to ensure that a lot of them succeed.
Dr. Binder, let me hold you to your word that the N-Power beneficiaries are on the right path.
Yes, I think so. Only God knows how everybody behaves mentally, but as far as we are concerned, as technocrats, we have selected these people very well. We've trained them very well. We're trying to open opportunities to them very well. Certainly, our country, like somebody said, 4/10 in our country is distinction, meaning that it's tough but we will target 7 over 10. You know, we'll do everything to make sure that these young people succeed. There are some erratic ones. I mean, there was a chap who called me to say that I'm very useless, that they did not get their allowance. I said, I'm sorry, sir, because he's a young person, he's desperate. So I calmed him down. You get this kind of shot. Even the minister herself, there are people who send a very bad text. You ate our money, and God will punish you, and so on and so forth. After all, it's an allowance. It goes to you to your account through GIFMIS. The money, there is no way a minister will. But still, you have young people who are graduates from institutions of higher learning who can say this. Okay. So there's a mixture of bits and pieces, but on the whole, we do our very best.
Like I always say, Nigeria is work in progress. Let's turn our attention to the National Homegrown School Feeding Program, which targets pupils for primary 1 to 3. Yeah. And we hear the numbers are increasing. About 10 million children are benefiting from it. And just recently, the 7th African Child Day was commemorated rather, for the implementation and redesigning of the program. Now, all of this has been happening for quite some time now, talking about the Homegrown School Feeding Program. Pupils are benefiting, but it's still not enough.
Well, yeah, I think all Nigerians have to share this success. When we started in 2016, a lot of people never gave us a chance. They thought this is huge, this is terrible. I mean, you know, beyond everything. But I can tell you, systematically, we managed to identify all the schools, all primary schools in this country. We have the database. We're using IT facilities to the optimum. We're partnering with the UBE system in every state to document schools. In each school, we are documenting the number of children. But you know, you have 1, 2, 3, you are feeding them. 1 year, it shifts. So the 3rd year will become 4, 4th, and they are out of the school feeding.
They're no longer receiving
the
meal.
They are no longer, but there are some states, like, I mean, many states who have decided to pay and feed for 5, 6. But you know, so the dynamics are there and the indices for measuring the success. But I can tell you, if you see how the team and the technical people running this work, how you ensure that every month for 20 days, children are fed. These children, somebody must cook the food. The cooks are organized in the state. Somebody has to gather the material to give the cooks. The aggregators are working. That chain is amazing for Nigeria. Even the World Food Program has actually commended Nigeria. This is a United Nations system, that this is the most elaborate and ambitious school feeding program, at least in Africa. And it is successful. And you cannot believe this. From 2017, 16, 17, when we started this, to date, we've not had a case whereby children in a party school were poisoned, and then children are dying or they're getting sick or vomiting. No. It means the training we have given to our cooks, the training we have given to our aggregators, the headmasters partnering and coping with us, the school system is working. Yes, there are challenges here and there, but actually on the whole, we're doing a very, very good job on the school feeding program, to the extent that the president saw, and he now said, expand the program by another 5 million. We have 10 million we're feeding. This is small in terms of by Nigerian.
That's why I said it's not enough.
He said expand it by 5 million, but you know, there are a lot of other dynamics that actually, because you must get the state to accept that this is true. Then the schools must be documented. Then the children must be documented, and so on and so forth. So it is work in progress, as you put it. You know, so it is working.
Okay, now from the 5 million that the president said that should be added to the already about 9 million, recently the ministry said that there's going to be a commencement of deworming. Yes. Of primary 1 to 3 who are already beneficiaries of the program. But then they also said that they're going to add 4, 5, 6. Do we have a number? Do we have a number from that you're going to, already from that 10 million? Is this 5 million part of? 1 million.
That's what, from the 5 million approved by Mr. President on the basis of availability of resources, we're trying to mount 1 million. So
for
that
a start.
For a start. Okay. So from 10 million, hopefully we'll get to 15 million and 11 million. All right. Okay. So and then we move gradually. If you put 5 million like that, you will be shocked how to manage that. Okay. And the resources. I mean, every month we're spending something like between 12 to 16 billion naira on the school feeding program every month. So calculate that and you see the resources that you require.
That's a lot of money,
Yes.
you know, going down, and it's not a waste, so to say, because you're empowering children. And we hear the attestation that more enrollment is happening in schools, you know, these community schools. But I want to find out, in terms of the cooks and where you're getting your resources, because these meals, from what you've always said over time, that they're nutritious meal, they try to give them balanced diets and all of that. The resources and the cooks, how are they being selected? Is it just randomly or from the communities? Who are these people benefiting from the value chain?
Well, the thing is, you have 3 or 4 groups. You have the children that eat the food, you have the cooks that prepare the food, you have the aggregators that mops up and buys the food material and give the cooks, and then you have the farmers that produce the cook. Theoretically, we encourage that all the farmers that are producing food that is common in the area should be local. That is the economic inclusivity. In some states, that is working. In some states, they are not working.
Why?
Because now you have to document the farmers. You have to raise the orientation of the farmers to understand that it is no more only subsistence, producing what you eat. When you produce extra, it will be bought to feed your children in the school. This particular orientation takes time, but as I said, it's creeping slowly. The aggregators are encouraged to buy the food material locally. But then by the time you mop up all the extra rice you have in a community compared with the number of schools, you have to jump even to another state to go and buy rice. So that is how it works. But this is all learning in progress. You know, we are getting better and better. Now we are even documenting children with their fingerprints, their facial and pictures, which was not done before. So that when we target a child, we even know the child that we are targeting with their name. So all these bits and pieces, utilizing the IT system in our country, we're getting better and better. Now, you can, if you ask Aisha Digilna, who is heading the school feeding program, how many children are you feeding in Kogi State? She'll just close her eyes and say, this is the number. That wouldn't have been possible.
Because she has a database.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay, still, sir, I would like to go back to the mopping up of the resources so that they can supply the school feeding. Is there any support for the farmers? Because if N-Power is there, are they just farmers in the communities, or is there automatic getting of resources from participants of N-Power who are doing agriculture?
Well, you see, this is how you open opportunities.
Okay.
When somebody is trained in a farming system for a year, receiving 30,000, and he notices that the schools in his area are buying eggs, chicken meat, rice, oil palm. If he is really cool, if you know what I mean, he will start saying, hey, I need to approach these people who are doing this. Let me add value. And the idea is N-Power, build skills. When you build the skills, and then you start saying, well, okay, I know how to raise chicken, so what? Then Jeep will come and say, we'll give you loan to raise your 20, 30 chicken. That is how the credit support. Say, okay, I have my chicken and eggs, so what? Then school feeding will come and say, hey, we want your eggs and sheep and whatever to feed. This is how it's supposed to be integrated. You know, gradually, people are beginning to see as we unleash. I mean, recently, Ruth was there when we did the open house. Open house is a transparent strategy to be, you just open yourself, let people come and see what you're doing. And I can tell you, even the House Committee Chairman on Poverty, on the door when I was seeing him off from there, he said, Doctor, I'm now beginning to understand the psychology behind this program. I said, Mr. President has seen it long time ago. So, Honorable Member, he said you will get 150% support, because it is clear how you can be able to, selecting the cooks, as the Ruth said, is done in the state. We at the federal, we don't select one single cook. We don't interfere in that. It's a local thing. The aggregators, totally selected in the state. We don't say that man is my brother, he must. We don't interfere. So this thing, the members of the National Assembly must help us, the ministers must help us, the politicians must help us. Everybody has to put their hands on deck to ensure that that local system functions. It is to the advantage of everybody.
Because at the end of the day, it's all about the Nigerian child.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You mentioned the JIP. So let's come to JIP. That's the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program.
Yeah.
They are segmented into three: the market money, the trader money, and the farmer money.
Yeah.
They've been given credit, but so far we've not been hearing of how this credit is being utilized. So what can you tell us in that regard? And are they remitting back?
Well, you see, the first thing is the idea behind JIP is that market money is to do with women selling things. Trader money also a high percentage of women, just between 10,000 and 50,000.
How are they selected? Is it just go to the market randomly and just...
No.
Okay.
Again, there's a registration process.
Okay.
But the registration process this time is not internet-based.
Okay.
NOA has partnered with us, and we have had registers of registration in every local government. There's something called COMOs, Community Mobilization Officers, officers of the NOA. So they're sitting there. We have had 3 months of registration. Anybody who wants to participate can register. But then again, the numbers of participation has been fixed per state. So we use 4 indices of sharing the numbers based on the amount of money that is available. First, we share it on the basis of equal distribution. So we take 20% of the quantum, we just divide it by 37 and give everybody a figure so that there is nobody who's going to get 0. The second index is that population. The idea is that the more population you have, the more vulnerable you may have. So in underpopulation, we get again 20% of that lump, and we use population, the figures we got from Population Commission, and then we divide it. Then the third is poverty incidence. You know, the poverty incidence also, we get the figures from the National Bureau of Statistics, and then we share 25% of that lump, and then the number of local governments, so that you can reach everywhere. So when we do the sharing on these 4 indices, we collapse it, and then every state has a number.
Has it been consistent?
Consistent, yeah. This is consistent. So there's no way you can come and say you are taking the share of Bauchi State and giving it to Bayelsa. It's fixed. Our job is to ensure that we make everything possible for Bayelsans to participate, for Bauchi people to participate, for Sokoto people to participate, and their number is there. So how we reach them, how we screen them, how we train them, how we ensure that they choose viable things is now the technical component of what we do. But I can assure you that it is working as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I can give you a practical situation with my mother. My mother knew how to extract oil out of groundnuts. This is a very complex food technology, but she knows it without going to school. She knows how to make dawa dawa. This is African Maggi, is fantastic. Everybody eats it. She can make puff puff. She can fry akara. All this. I was born by a professor of survival skills, but then she had no money. She died poor. If this 10,000 or 50,000 were to reach my mom, I can assure you that I would have gone to university with a car. That is how the JIP is working. The JIP is reaching the poor and vulnerable, ones that were not included.
Are they remitting back this way?
You see, repayment, if you use repayment to tighten your noose, you are not going to deploy the technicalities. What you tighten your noose is to make sure that they succeed.
Okay.
So we monitor, we evaluate, we train, we never leave you to rest. It is that making money that is now ensuring. Our relationship with the banks is taking care of the repayment. But our job is not to start telling you that if you don't pay, after all, there is no collateral.
Yes.
There is no interest.
Yeah.
So already it's a very, very weak system to do with repayment. But the added advantage is when you get money in the communities, the women are buying kerosene. They're buying things from each other. That in itself is repaying itself, but still the cash has to come because it's a revolving loan. If your community repays back, more of the community will now actually get the benefit of the program.
Okay, sir. Like during the open house, you mentioned that JIP 2.0 will soon commence.
Yeah.
Do we have a number of persons that we intend to add on to the already number? And then also, how much money are we going to give out as loan, as a lump sum?
Well, we did the registration at the local government level.
Okay.
The first phase of registration, we had 1.1 million women and young girls and so on registered. And then we digitized this, meaning we had to type it. It was manual registration first. Okay. Next time we do it, we'll do digital. But this time we did manual. So we did the digitization and we selected 600,000 out of the 1.1 million. We rescreened it. Right now, as we speak, we have 100,000 ready for trader money and market market money. These two are going to take off. The farmer money, we're tweaking it a little bit, because if the limit for trader money is 50,000. The limit for market money is 50,000. But for farmer money is 300,000. It does not mean that you take 300,000, you just give it to somebody. The feasibility that will help the farmer, the local farmer, to do, if they did their feasibility and they realize that they need 150,000 naira to achieve their ginger production, they get 100. But let them not bring a proposal of 500,000 naira. It's not going to go down. So these two are going to start probably in the next week, 1 week, but then farmer money will start down the line.
You know, my job is quite interesting, is to ask on behalf of the public. And I know one question that has been in the lips of many Nigerians is, who are these beneficiaries?
Yes.
You know, where are they situated? Is it in the rural communities? Are they in the urban center? Where are these beneficiaries, especially for this JEEP program you talk about?
The JEEP, you see, using NOA goes down to the bottom of the bottom. That is how they do their orientation work. It is NOA that we work. You cannot go down to every ward or every unit and start registering. At least we narrowed it down so that the logistics will not get you swallow it totally. In every local government, the 774 local government areas, we have registered beneficiaries. And the opening up, the announcements goes down to the last mile. And you cannot believe it if you had monitored some of the functions. Even in Abuja here, you will see a long queue. A queue of old women, young women, middle-aged, everybody understanding what the JEEP is all about. And we captured the data of these people. So they are actually local people. They are poor and vulnerable. Most of them, I'm sorry to say, they are women, you know, in rural communities. And the screening also had that, including people with disabilities, you know. And this is where they are there from the local communities, but the registration happened at the local government secretariat.
It's good you mentioned persons with disabilities. Have they been also incorporated into all the NSIPs?
All of them. We work very closely with the Disability Commission. They have their own tentacles down to the ward level. It is them. We just say, you have 10 or 15%. This is the number. This is the distribution per state, and they just give us the list of the beneficiaries. They have their own selection and documentation and the screening procedure.
Okay. And women?
Oh, yes.
Are women given special preference?
Oh, yeah. I mean, because even the president said, make sure that he didn't give a percentage, but make sure that our women, they are the ones who actually pay loans back. They are in market money, 100% women. No, very few, if at all. Trader money, maybe 20% men. Again, is women. Farmer money is where you have, to a certain extent, more men. But actually, women participating in NSIP, all the cooks are women, 100%. You know, so it's a large pool of women empowerment under the NSIP. Okay,
still we. Under the ministry, we have the National Center for Senior Citizens. Do they have, or under the trader money, is there provision for them to get loans so that some of them can get back their lives?
No, because we have age limit.
Okay.
You know, you utilize the energy of youthfulness to actually do that. But
what's the age limit?
The age limit, I think, is 40 or so, so that you know. But under the conditional cash transfer, you have more aged women and men benefiting than young people, because it's a household based. It's, you know, the registration of who is a poor in the rural community mostly are old men. They don't have anybody, they don't have anything, they're not doing anything. Then they qualify for the conditional cash transfer. And there are 2 million households in the National Beneficiary Register.
It used to be under the National Social Register.
Yeah.
Why National Beneficiary Register now?
The National Social Register is a creation for the first time in our country to just document poor households, generally.
Okay.
And as we speak, I can tell you, we have 46 million individuals registered in that, and 11 million households. This is the pool. The reason why the National Social Register is generic is that we encourage state governments to mine from it, the development partners to mine from it. So even the conditional cash transfer mine from it. When it is mined, then the beneficiary register under the federal government conditional cash transfer, the beneficiary register is 2 million households, if you get it. So from the 11 million, National Social Register, 2 million have been mined and they are benefiting under the conditional cash transfer. But I'm happy also to report to you, out of the 11 million social register, other agencies are also mining from that too. And the number probably is around 1 million or so households that are benefiting.
Okay,
sorry. What mechanisms do we have in place as they are mining? What mechanisms do we have in place that there will not be repetition? How somebody from conditional cash transfer will not also be part of an agency that is bringing in support? What mechanisms do we have to remove double counting?
Well, you see, the beauty about the NSIP is that, just think about it, it is targeting the poor and the vulnerable. It does not mean that because your child, as a poor person, is benefiting under the school feeding program, therefore the house is out of conditional cash transfer. No. It does not mean that because there's a poor boy out of a family of 20 children, one has gone to Polytechnic and he's benefiting under Empower, and then the house is actually out of it. No. It is a well-documented system. We use digital means. We use a lot of data and analysis to ensure that we are targeting the poor and vulnerable. That is the summary of it. We don't go through this sharing formula of you're benefiting Empower, then don't go under conditional cash transfer. Certainly, when you're benefiting Empower, you cannot benefit under JIP. That cannot happen. But when you finish, and then you are ready with your skills, and you prove that you are, a poor and vulnerable, but with skills, of course you can benefit from JIP.
Dr. Binder, we're winding down this conversation, and the whole essence of the NSIP is to ensure a productive society where empowerment is inclusive for everyone. Would you say beyond this time, I'm talking about this administration now, sustainability will be ensued?
Well, I think one of the things that is going for Nigeria using the NSIP is that the program is evidence-based. You can actually say, this is the position at this time because we use data very, very loosely. Before, it used to be random things. You're just doing things politically and economically, no morality and so on. This time around, even if you try to break the barriers of NSIP, the digitality will catch you. And I can tell you the assemblage of people with capacity, from NASCO to NCTO to the NSIP school feeding Empower and JIP, it is so encouraging to see young people with intellectual energy putting together, working until 2 o'clock sometimes in the morning to ensure that this happens. We have call centers to ensure that we check everything as we hear that. Yes, there are challenges. Payments are late, the feeding stopped because the payment to cooks has not. These are natural things. But I can tell you, I can't see a government, a new government, even if it is not APC, that can come and throw NSIP out of the... Ruth, even during Abacha there was FIP. It's a similar thing to this. Obasanjo came and did NAPEP, right? The President Jonathan came and did SUAP. So no matter what you do, there must be a poverty eradication program. The good thing about NSIP is it's now in a ministry. Ministries are very difficult to chuck away. You can change it, tweak it, and change the name and so on and so on, but it's very difficult to throw away. So it is not a standalone program with a lot of money, and then when you change the DG or the executive secretary, it dies down. With the NSIP, it's literally not possible. Even if the national coordinator, Dr. Binder, goes, NSIP will be there.
Laraba, your final question, so Mr. Binder, we can be very brief with that.
Okay, my final question is, recently you said that, I'm taking us back please, you said that the feeding is going to go up from 70 naira per child to 100 naira. Has that commenced? And then also the minister talked about building up 60 model kitchens for the cooks. Has that also commenced, and how is that also going to impact the feeding of the children?
The 100 naira feeding rate
from 70
naira, I think is we prepared it because this is to do with release of resources. It's not something that you just start. We've already done all the memos, all the calculations, everything to start. Immediately the resources come in, it will start. But on 70, it's going on. So on building the kitchens, this is part of the empowerment for the women. They are now cooking in their houses. Now when you move them to a formal cooking thing, imagine the entrepreneurs that you are going to generate from that. So again, all the contracts for building the kitchens have been awarded, and many of the people have moved to site, And some of the kitchens are even ready, and the cooks are using it. And I'm happy to report that we are even started seeing impact of cooks, women from local environments in the community. Now they're using organized structures and facilities for cooking. It's a good thing.
Dr. Binder, your final word to Nigerians. NSIP no doubt has come to stay, according to you and what we're seeing. What would you tell Nigerians to believe in this program?
I think Nigerians should look at this on 4 levels. First, don't be too stiff political about it. You know, you want to criticize it and tear it apart. It is working. Be a part of it and participate. Secondly, economically, I can assure you, we're doing everything to be transparent and accountable. Any information you want, you can get it as. 3, the moral level. Make sure you are part of it also to ensure that it works for Nigeria. And finally, technical. We are actually on efficiency level. We're deploying ICT. We're making sure the technicalities are there. Be part of it. That is what I'm going to leave you with, and make sure that you participate. Poverty alleviation, nobody wants to be poor.
And
nobody
there should be more awareness about the programs, because a lot of Nigerians can only believe what they see.
Yes, this is part of it. So, I mean, if you continue to
If I allow
tune
Dr. Binder, will keep talking.
NTA will continue to tell you what is happening in NSIP. So continue to tune in to NTA. That's
Thank you for that promotion. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Binder.
All right.
And Lara Bamure, thank you very much.
Thank
She
you
is
for
from the
having
Abuja
me.
Inquirer newspaper. Thank you for your time,
Thank
always
you.
on platform. All right, we have been talking about assessing the gains of the national social investment programs of the federal government. Now, show me a society that is succeeding without social safety nets in place. I don't think so. That's Platform. I'm Ruth Aguela. Bye.